Hello everyone, my name is Art Russell. Welcome to my channel. A few days ago I received the intuitive nudge to make this video, and I also received the title for it, which may seem a little bizarre given the nature of my channel. But I'm hoping that you'll watch this video through to the end to decide for yourself if the points that I share can be helpful or useful. So let's get to it. When I was a child, in the dream of my apparent life, I was very fortunate to have two loving parents. I was cared for very well, and I never really wanted for anything that had true value, which is basically love. Now, as children sometimes do or experience, I would occasionally scrape an elbow or a knee or maybe hurt my wrist. And my mother always seemed to be able to kiss it better, either figuratively or literally, through an action, a loving action, or maybe an actual kiss to my wrist and say, there, the boo-boo's better. Now you might be asking yourself, Art, what can this possibly have to do with your channel? Now, many of you know that I relate videos about non-duality, our non-dual nature, and the law of attraction. And for me, those two subjects began to dovetail a number of years ago. I became aware of this, and that actually opened the door of my understanding. So the kiss that makes it all better or makes everything better, for the purposes of this video, is self-awareness. Not self-awareness as the apparent person. I don't need to know more of the history of Art Russell. What I'm talking about is our divine nature. The kiss that makes it all better on a much deeper level is greater understanding. And this comes through grace of the divine. I'm not saying that I'm favored in any way beyond apparent others. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the kiss of the divine, the awareness of our higher self, with a capital S, can greatly improve the quality of our apparent lives. It can release fear that we may be clutching due to our belief that we are the person. We've been conditioned to believe that we are the name, Art Russell in my case, and the form. And we believe that 100%. In fact, it seems bizarre or ludicrous to even consider that we could be something other than this form. Now, the common belief is that this apparent physical form somehow magically gives rise to consciousness. Now, on a deeper level, which is often referred to as the shift, we understand that consciousness comes first, and that objects and circumstances arise in consciousness, through consciousness, and are known by consciousness or awareness. This is totally at odds with the common viewpoint. The common viewpoint is that things, apparent objects, have an intrinsic nature of their own, that they exist independent of the mind that perceives them. In this video, I'm going to relate some information that I hope will help you question that perspective and see if this can help you manifest better apparent conditions for your life. It was a number of years ago that awakening began to happen. Now, talking about this is quite difficult because no person becomes awakened. Well, that's going to sound odd, isn't it? So why are we talking about this? What's to be gained? Nothing. We're going to remove the false, the ignorant viewpoint. Ignorant, by that, I don't mean that anyone who believes that is stupid or in any way compromised. What I'm meaning is we need to drop, or we actually don't drop it, but when there's a falling away of the false perspective, then truth is free to rise and reveal itself to us. No person becomes awakened or enlightened. If someone ever tries to tell you that, you might at least question that, because with enlightenment, we actually see through that we are not the person. We are the awareness or consciousness in which the body-mind arises. Now, before you write this off, I'd like you to just, if it feels natural to you, question about how objects and events arise in nighttime dreams. During that apparent dream, or an apparent dream, we might believe that we are sailing in a ship across an ocean, or walking across a desert. We can feel the heat. We're aware of the thirst, the scorching temperatures, the sun high above, and it's so hot we might even see camels. And during the dream, during that perspective, we absolutely believe that this is occurring for real. Now, what I'm sharing in this video is that such is the case in this right now. In spiritual terms, this is referred to as the waking state. Now, in the perspective of the person, we normally believe that we rise in the morning, get up, we go to the washroom, we get a coffee or we have a shower, we head off to our work, and we believe that we are the doers. From a deeper perspective, this is not the case at all. We feel that we are the doers in the nighttime dreams. But can we actually be? What substance is there to the nighttime dream? Consciousness. All phenomena are arising in mind. Now, this is the case with the waking state. And it was a few years ago when I was reading a law of attraction book called The Law of Success by Paramahansa Yogananda, that I saw one little sentence that said, "The mind is the creator of everything." And I thought, the mind? Well, yes, and what he's meaning is infinite living mind. That's all there really is. And that's what gives rise to phenomena. When we believe that we are the person, we're bound to suffer. Why? Simple reason one is fear of death. When we believe we are the name and form, as the years roll by, it will quite probably be quite natural to fear the demise of our person. We believe that it's generating consciousness by its organic, physical processes. So then there's the great fear that when the body is no more, the I is gone. When we begin with consciousness first, as primary, that perspective falls away. We know a greater truth. In fact, Neville Goddard wrote a book entitled Consciousness is the Only Reality. So at this point, let's deepen our understanding of the kiss that makes it all better. And I'd like to share some passages from some books that you may have read or you may not have read. But perhaps this information can help you, A, become more aware of your true self, or B, manifest more via the power of the mind, through faith. So the first book is entitled The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. He was a Barbadian mystic. He originally came to the United States to work as a dancer. He had been trained as a dancer, but the Great Depression, 1929, came about, and he found himself without work. And he ended up studying with a being by the name of Abdullah. Now, it's not very well known who this Abdullah was. I believe he was some religious training, but Neville learned greater truths through him, and then he deepened it on his own. The power of awareness you could also interpret as the power of God. There's only one power, God, Source, the universe. Let's go to the quote. This is in chapter 13, entitled Acceptance. Here's the quote. However much you seem to be living in a material world, you are actually living in a world of imagination. Crazy? Well, let's look at a few more passages before we rule this out. Now, you see, this points to your deeper nature too. What is absolutely essential to have an experience? Consciousness. Consciousness must be present to have the experience of something happening. So what Goddard was pointing to through various books, such as Feeling is the Secret, is that you will apparently experience what you're desiring if you believe you already have it. And there are many quotes from the Bible, such as, whatsoever things ye desire when ye pray, believe ye have them, and ye shall receive them. Now, from the perspective of the person, if you believe that you are only the person that has a beginning and has an end. Yes, the body has a beginning, has an end. But our essential nature is eternal, immortal. But if you believe that you are the person trying to have whatever things manifest that you desire into your life, this is going to be very hard, very challenging. What this understanding is pointing at today is that the world we see is simulated. Now, I'm not saying it's not real. I'm saying that it, instead of being made out of matter, which science is confirming that indeed there is no matter, they go looking at smaller bits of matter, and matter, it doesn't dissolve, but it gets to the point where it's viewed as being energy. Einstein, there's a quote I've seen online where he's basically saying that the field, the infinite field, is the sole governor of all apparent matter, that matter arises out of the field. This occurs in our nighttime dreams. Could it not be happening right now? So let's move on to another book. Let's move on to a book about our true nature this time. This other one, Neville Goddard was talking about manifesting and our essential nature being consciousness, but let's go a little deeper. In my study of these two subjects, I came across the Lankavatara Sutra, which chronicles talks with the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, or Gautama Siddhartha. The point is we all actually have a Buddha nature, or a Christ consciousness, or Krishna consciousness. Let's go to the quote. These were discussions and questions asked of the historical Buddha. Here's one that will take us a little deeper in our understanding, if we're open to it, if we're ready. And if we're not, that's not a problem. I'm just sharing this because I received the intuitive nudge to do it. And I believe that when the heart speaks, everything gets better if I follow. So I'm kind of watching this video unfold as you may be watching it now, or in the future, which doesn't exist. You will only watch it now because the now is all there is. The Buddha, the Blessed One, had been asked a question, and I'm going to read this highlighted part here. That is part of his reply. All that is seen in the world is devoid of effort and action, because all things in the world are like a dream, or like an image miraculously projected. This is not comprehended by the philosophers and the ignorant. It just means unaware, those who are unaware. But those who thus see things see them truthfully. So as we can see, the Buddha was pointing out the illusionary nature of this world. It functions by real laws, spiritual laws. I'm not saying that if something apparently occurs that it won't have real consequences, but it will have consequences in consciousness as experience, so that our soul will have those experiences and evolve. Let's go on to another book. Let's go to a law of attraction book now that I read years ago, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Now, I must admit, when I first saw even the title, The Science, I thought, well, from human perspectives, we're used to thinking we better be followers. Or some people think that way. They think, well, maybe I could sell some stuff on Amazon, or I can open a car dealership. And I saw a neighbor of mine, he got wealthy selling cars, or somebody else believes let's get into certain other businesses and believe that that's the way. This is not the way. What Wallace D. Wattles speaks about in this it became quite famous through The Secret when Rhonda Byrne was handed a PDF copy, I believe, that her daughter printed up for her, I believe. Anyway, some copy of this. And she understood the truth involved in this book at a much deeper level. It took me many years myself to understand, because I was still trying to basically attack life and try to get it through the limited perspective of art. You've probably heard it stated that the conscious mind is only about 5%. 95% is the subconscious. What Wallace D. Wattles was saying, that impress into the subconscious mind our desires as though we have them already. And the correlate will be, if we're thinking it and believing it, it will manifest. That will be impressed into infinite living mind, and it will create it for us. This brings us back to the quote from Paramahansa Yogananda, the mind is the creator of everything. So we let the highest create what we desire for us. Here's the quote of many good ones throughout this book. No thought of form can be impressed upon the original substance without causing the creation of that form. A human being is a thinking center and can originate thought. Now, what I would suggest to manifest more of what you desire is to go into the stillness. Shut out the apparent world of the senses. And if it's health that you're desiring, believe that you have it already. Feel it. Create a scene, as we're advised to do by Neville Goddard, that implies the fulfillment of that desire. If it's great health, but maybe in the dream you're not apparently experiencing that right now, flash forward to the apparent future, experience that, then bring it back. Live from that end, do not see of it. Of, you're still separate. When you're living from it, you're at it, you've arrived. If you're thinking of it, it's separate. Bring your perspective back to where your senses are all lit up, as many as you can. You're seeing it, hearing it, tasting it, touching it, smelling it. That scene, make it alive. Make it real. And do this on a consistent basis in a relaxed manner. Moving on, let's go to another book about our essential nature, being consciousness. Buddha mind, Christ consciousness, to our essence of what is real about us, what is real and lasting. Not lasting in time, eternal. The change less that gives rise to the changeful. This book is entitled Who Am I? By Ramana Maharshi. He was again awakened being, awakened suddenly at the age of 16. Now, here's a question asked by a seeker and the reply. Is there no difference between waking and dream? And Sri Ramana Maharshi's reply, waking is long and dream short. Other than this, there is no difference. Just as waking happenings seem real while awake, so do those in a dream while dreaming. In dream, the mind takes on another body. In both waking and dream states, thoughts, names, and forms occur simultaneously. They arise. A being by the name of Ramesh Balsekar, often quoted the historical Buddha for saying this: events happen, deeds are done, but there is no individual doer thereof. Basically doesn't exist. What is real, changeless, is consciousness, or aware, or awareness. Moving on. Let's move on to, I've mentioned this book many times and I've read it many times, getting a little bit more each time. A well-known law of attraction book and also about our true nature, The Master Key System by Charles F. Haanel. I've got a few passages here, and I'll read a couple of them. The I of you is not the physical body. That is simply an instrument which the I, the higher self, uses to carry out its purposes. The I cannot be the mind, for the mind is simply another instrument which the I uses with which to think, reason, and plan. The apparent finite mind is derived from the only mind there is, the infinite mind. Here's another. The I must be something which controls and directs both the body and the mind, something which determines what they shall do and how they shall act. When you come into a realization of the true nature of this I, you will enjoy a sense of power which you have never before known. Now, here's another quote that escaped my attention for many years. This quote, page 90, and it's number 29. Until my perspective had lessened as Art Russell, trying to understand from a very limited perspective, and broadened or deepened. Sorry about that. Shook the video there. It is the few who know that the things which they see are only effects, and understand the causes by which these effects were brought into existence. I would offer that the effects occurred because at a certain level, whether we were aware of it or not, our beliefs were impressed into the subconscious mind, accepted by the subconscious mind, and made real for us by the mind. Let's move on to another book about our essential nature. Again, I was saying the two subjects of interest, they dovetail. Our essential nature being much more than this limited perspective of the name and the form, Art Russell, and also the workings of the law of attraction. This book is entitled Wake Up and Roar, Satsang with Papaji by Eli Jackson Bear, who had met this awakened being. He was referred to as Papaji, who awakened to his true nature and then helped other beings who sought out his presence, seeking to know a much deeper level of self. Here's the quote. Everyone is sleeping. When you see other, when you see otherness, when you see duality, subject, object, would be the apparent laptop in front of me. This would be thought of as the subject. That's the object, duality. It is called dreaming. Only in the dream do you see objects. Only in the dream do you see objects. Let's repeat that once more. Only in the dream do you see objects. When there is other, it is a dream. Why? Because what's real? One. Not a one that we can count. One that we can be. When there is other, it is a dream, and prior to this dream, you must be sleeping. Sleeping is ignorance. When you awake up from this state, you wake up to awareness. You realize, wow, the making of this video, the experience of Art making this video is happening in consciousness. Backing up what was shared here about everyone is sleeping, I'd like to share a quote from a famous spiritual book entitled I Am That. Now, it relates talks with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj and seekers. And the quote, to the best of my memory at this time, is, "To be a person is to be asleep." It means if you're still 100% believing that's what you are asleep. Now, this isn't wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. This apparent unit was asleep, believing he was awake as the doer, for well over 50 years. 50 when I would meditate. I've long had a habit of meditating 20 minutes a day, especially during my career as a paramedic and after an apparent divorce in the dream of my life, which I took to be very, very real. Meditation, stilling the mind, stilling the incessant torture of the mind by the mind. This is why meditation is so often advised as a useful practice. And the goal, in a way, is to make our whole apparent life a meditation. In fact, meditation is actually what we are, rather than something a person does. We can use meditation to get rid moving on in this kiss that makes it all better, I hope, or at least offer something of value. Here's a law of attraction book, as you can see, entitled A Happy Pocket Full of Money by David Cameron Giocondi. Wonderful book. Wonderful book. And here's the quote. Now it's about manifesting, and it's also about our true nature, the true nature of our world. In this book, he also discusses or relates information about how things are made, apparent things in relation to quantum physics. Here's the quote. The world is an illusion, as we will see much more clearly as we move on. See it as an illusion, believe it to be an illusion. An illusion designed to help you know and experience yourself. And the true self is what's real. This name and form is a projection in consciousness. Now, by the way, here's that book entitled Consciousness is the Only Reality that I referred to earlier. Consciousness being the only reality. One. Everything arising out of one. The apparent diversity and multiplicity arising from the one. Nighttime dreams. From what does the content arise during those? One. Infinite living mind. This book, the last book, The Kybalion, which is a book of esoteric teachings, and I've mentioned this before. When I first read this on one of my motorcycle trips out west, or I began reading it in British Columbia, Canada, the first part of the book, I thought, oh my goodness, what have I gotten into here? I had discovered this book in my study of the law of attraction, when I still believed 100% that I was Art Russell and that I could attract much better circumstances. And I'm glad that I did go through those trying events, because it took my understanding much deeper. I'm not saying better. There's no comparison. The first principle in the Kybalion, the principle of mentalism. The all is mind, the universe is mental. Now, the universe that is apparently experienced during nighttime dreams, it's mental. If we've had a plate full of spaghetti in the nighttime dream, we do not expect to find an actual plate at the foot of the bed, do we? We rarely question it. We just go, oh, that was a dream. We're not expecting that to be absolutely real. The fall of ignorance away from true self, apparently away. We actually can't be away from it. How could we? But the perspective can be apparently away from it. Is that we believe, oh, we're real. What's real is in the waking state here. We call it reality. What I'm saying is, if this can even twig a little bit of a switch or an openness, just open that door of your mind in your understanding. Don't understand it with the mind, but when we experience truth ourselves, and this is what we have to experience it directly. If we try to accumulate book after book after book, no, that's not the way. Yes, I've highlighted points here, but then those have been internalized or sparked a greater awareness within my soul, and to help me recognize, to know again, know thyself at a much deeper level. To take an apparent human journey, what is required is to forget, the great forgetting of your true nature. And due to this forgetfulness, we suffer. We suffer the perspective of our avatar. This is the kiss that can make it all better. The divine kiss, grace. Now I'd like to go on to the end of this last passage that can perhaps help you attract greater circumstances, more favorable circumstances. True, this book mentions Hermes Trismegistus, who is the greatest of the great in his understanding. This is knowledge from ancient Egypt. True hermetic transmutation is a mental art. In the above axiom, the Hermetists teach that the great work of influencing one's environment is accomplished by mental power. The universe being wholly mental, in consciousness, not meaning crazy, in consciousness, it follows that it may be ruled only by mentality. Where can this be useful? Situations of health. Believe, see your vision of greater health. Now, I've had some challenges this way too. And the illusion can keep drawing us back to what we think is real, but when we become still, be still and know I am God. I believe that's Psalm 46:10. Could be wrong on that, but another Bible truth related in the good book is, for in him we live and move and have our being. Him, capital, would be consciousness or awareness, God. Whatever name we call it cannot be it, because a name is only a word that refers to something. The word cannot be the thing. If the universe be mental in its substantial nature, then it follows that mental transmutation must change the conditions and phenomena of the universe. That seems pretty logical, doesn't it? Dr. Joe Dispenza who's well known in this type of subject matter, he's well known for saying that to change your personal reality, you've got to change your personality. How do you do that? Neville Goddard would definitely say the power of imagination. Bob Proctor, body, mind, now deceased, taught law of attraction and this greater truth for 60 years, or studied it for 60 years and taught it for at least 50. He was well known for saying, if you can see it in the mind, you're going to hold it in your hand. If the universe is mental, then mind must be the highest power affecting its phenomena. Mind. What are you holding in mind? What are you believing for yourself? Now is all there is. When we access power through now. Be still. What I would suggest as far as manifesting a greater, more favorable circumstances is just before falling asleep at night, the subconscious mind is in a highly suggestive state. And the conscious mind, which can often be a barrier to what we believe, the good that we want to receive. So as we're drifting off to sleep, to hold favorable images of present circumstances right now, rather than focusing on the bad, the apparent bad. These terms don't really apply in some ways because they're so relative. What's bad to one might be considered favorable to another. What's good to one, coming into $100,000, let's say, or to billionaires who might go, 100,000, geez, I make that in a second, or I earn that in a second. So that's relative. But drift off to sleep, in the experience of that, with favorable circumstances on the mind. Same thing for the morning. Let gratitude be a place to start your day. Thank you, Source, for my wonderful sleep. Thank you, Source, for my great health. Thank you, Source, for my loving family. Thank you, Source, for my eyesight. Thank you, Source, for my hearing, for my voice. Let these positives become your habitual way of being, and you will see changes. Patience. Years of apparent practice of being negative are not countered in one 5-minute session. Patience, patience, patience. Positivity. Anyway, folks, I love each and every one of you, and I mean that. There is no other. We're all in this apparently in this interconnected divine matrix, as was coined by Greg Braden. I hope that you found this video, the kiss that makes it all better, useful or helpful. Bye for now. We'll talk again soon.